Welcome to Wisdom Audiobooks. Have you ever wondered why we make poor decisions, even when we try our best to think carefully? Every day, we face choices, big and small, that shape our lives. Yet, despite our best intentions, many of us fall victim to common thinking errors that cloud our judgment. These errors affect everything from our careers to our relationships, finances, and personal growth. This audiobook will guide you through practical strategies to avoid these pitfalls and make smarter decisions. Are you ready to transform your thinking? Introduction. The audiobook The Art of Thinking Clearly is written and published by Wisdom Audiobooks. In life, we often struggle with decision-making. Whether it's choosing the right career path, managing finances, or navigating relationships, we face challenges that stem from flawed thinking patterns. For instance, business leaders may fall into the trap of groupthink, where they prioritize consensus over innovation. Young professionals might succumb to confirmation bias, only seeking information that supports their pre-existing beliefs. Investors could be swayed by the scarcity effect, overvaluing opportunities simply because they seem rare. These cognitive biases are not just academic concepts, they have real-world consequences. They cost us time, money, and opportunities. But here's the good news: understanding these biases is the first step toward overcoming them. I understand how overwhelming it can feel to navigate a world filled with complexity and uncertainty. You're not alone. Many people, including myself, have faced similar struggles. There was a time when I made decisions based on emotions rather than logic, only to realize later that I had fallen prey to cognitive biases. It's frustrating, isn't it? But let me assure you, this audiobook is here to help. Together, we'll explore the science behind clear thinking and equip you with tools to make better choices. This audiobook is designed to empower you. By the end of this journey, you'll recognize and avoid 90% of the most common cognitive biases. Develop critical thinking skills to analyze situations objectively. Apply actionable strategies to improve your decision-making in work, finance, relationships, and personal growth. You'll hear stories of individuals who transformed their lives by mastering the art of clear thinking. You'll also gain insights from experts like Daniel Kahneman, author of Thinking, Fast and Slow, who famously said, "We are prone to overestimate how much we understand about the world and underestimate the role of chance. So, take a deep breath and trust the process. Every step you take toward clearer thinking brings you closer to the life you desire." Your wisdom journey starts here. Chapter 1: Understanding Thinking and Common Cognitive Biases. In this chapter, we'll dive deep into the fascinating world of human thinking. You'll discover how your brain processes information, why it often prioritizes speed over accuracy, and how this leads to common cognitive biases that affect your daily decisions. As Daniel Kahneman, Nobel Prize-winning psychologist and author of Thinking, Fast and Slow, once said, "Much of what happens in our minds is not under our conscious control." This statement perfectly encapsulates the essence of this chapter. We'll explore the mechanisms behind flawed thinking and uncover the root causes of errors that can derail your success. By the end of this chapter, you'll have a clear understanding of these biases and how they manifest in real-life situations. Are you ready to take the first step toward mastering the art of clear thinking? Let's begin. 1. How the brain processes information. 1.1. The two systems of thinking. Our brains operate using two distinct systems, as described by Daniel Kahneman in his groundbreaking research. System 1: fast, automatic, and intuitive. It helps us make quick decisions without much effort. For example, recognizing a face or reacting to danger. System 2: slow, deliberate, and logical. It requires focus and energy, such as solving a math problem or planning a project. While System 1 is efficient for everyday tasks, it often sacrifices accuracy for speed. This is where cognitive biases creep in. Our brains rely on shortcuts, known as heuristics, to save time and energy. Unfortunately, these shortcuts can lead to errors in judgment. For instance, imagine you're shopping for a new laptop. Your friend recommends a specific brand because they've had a good experience with it. Instead of researching alternatives, you immediately buy the same model. This is an example of the availability heuristic, where we base decisions on readily available information rather than thorough analysis. 1.2. Why do we fall into cognitive traps? The human brain evolved to prioritize survival over perfection. Thousands of years ago, our ancestors needed to make split-second decisions to avoid predators or find food. While this instinct served them well in prehistoric times, it doesn't always work in modern society. Today, we face complex challenges that require careful thought. Yet, our brains still default to quick judgments. As Warren Buffett wisely noted, what the human being is best at doing is interpreting all new information so that their prior conclusions remain intact. This tendency to cling to pre-existing beliefs is called confirmation bias, one of the most pervasive cognitive biases. We'll explore this in greater detail later in the chapter. 2. Common cognitive biases that affect daily life. Now that we understand how the brain works, let's examine some of the most common cognitive biases. These biases are universal. They affect everyone, regardless of age, education, or background. Recognizing them is the first step toward overcoming their influence. 2.1. Confirmation bias. Seeing what we want to see. Confirmation bias occurs when we seek out information that supports our existing beliefs while ignoring evidence to the contrary. This bias is particularly dangerous because it creates an echo chamber, reinforcing our views and preventing growth. Consider this scenario. You're debating whether to invest in a particular stock. You read articles praising the company's potential but skip over reports highlighting its risks. Without realizing it, you've fallen victim to confirmation bias. To combat this, try adopting a mindset of curiosity. Ask yourself, what would I need to see to change my mind? Actively seek out opposing viewpoints and evaluate them objectively. As Carl Sagan famously said, it pays to keep an open mind, but not so open your brains fall out. Balance is key. Stay open to new ideas while maintaining a healthy level of skepticism. 2.2. Anchoring effect, the power of first impressions. The anchoring effect refers to our tendency to rely heavily on the first piece of information we encounter, the anchor, when making decisions. Once set, this anchor influences all subsequent judgments, even if it's irrelevant or misleading. Imagine you're buying a car. The salesperson quotes a high initial price, which becomes your anchor. Even if they offer a discount later, you may still feel like you're getting a great deal, even if the final price is higher than the car's actual value. To overcome the anchoring effect, gather multiple data points before forming an opinion. Research thoroughly and compare options side by side. By broadening your perspective, you reduce the impact of any single anchor. 2.3. Illusion of control. Overestimating our influence. The illusion of control occurs when we believe we have more power over outcomes than we actually do. This bias is especially prevalent in high-stakes environments, such as gambling or investing. Take the example of a lottery player who picks their own numbers instead of using random ones. They mistakenly think their choice increases their chances of winning, even though every combination has the same probability. To counteract this bias, remind yourself that many factors are beyond your control. Focus on what you can influence, your preparation, effort, and attitude, and accept uncertainty with grace. As Steve Jobs once remarked, you can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking backward. Trust the process, and let go of the need to control every outcome. 3. Real-life example, the story of John and his investment mistake. Let me share a true story that illustrates the impact of cognitive biases. Meet John, a successful software engineer who decided to dabble in stock trading. John had always been confident in his analytical skills. He spent hours researching companies and reading financial news. However, despite his diligence, he consistently lost money. Frustrated, he sought advice from a mentor. During their conversation, the mentor pointed out several biases affecting John's decisions. Confirmation bias. John only followed analysts who agreed with his bullish outlook. Anchoring effect. He fixated on the purchase price of his stocks, refusing to sell even when the market signaled a downturn. Overconfidence bias. He believed his expertise in software engineering translated to superior investment skills. With guidance, John learned to identify and address these biases. He started diversifying his portfolio, seeking diverse opinions, and setting clear rules for buying and selling. Over time, his performance improved significantly. John's story reminds us that even intelligent, capable individuals can fall prey to cognitive biases. The key is awareness and a willingness to adapt. 4. Additional cognitive biases that shape our decisions. Now that we've explored confirmation bias, anchoring effect, and illusion of control, let's delve into a few more common cognitive biases that significantly impact our daily lives. These biases often go unnoticed, yet they shape our choices in profound ways. Understanding them will help you think more clearly and avoid costly mistakes. 4.1. Loss aversion, the fear of losing. Loss aversion is the tendency to prefer avoiding losses over acquiring equivalent gains. In other words, the pain of losing something is far greater than the pleasure of gaining it. This bias can lead to irrational decisions, especially in financial contexts. For example, imagine you're offered two investment options. Option A guarantees a $500 return. Option B has a 50% chance of earning $1,000 and a 50% chance of earning nothing. Logically, both options have the same expected value, $500. However, most people choose option A because they fear the possibility of ending up with nothing. This fear of loss can also paralyze decision-making. You might hesitate to leave a toxic job or end an unhealthy relationship simply because you're afraid of what you'll lose, even if staying puts you in a worse position long-term. To overcome loss aversion, reframe your perspective. Instead of focusing on what you might lose, consider the potential benefits of taking action. Ask yourself, what do I stand to gain by stepping out of my comfort zone? As Seth Godin, author of The Dip, wisely stated, successful people are willing to do things that unsuccessful people are not. Embrace calculated risks and trust the process of growth. 4.2. Hindsight bias, the "I knew it all along" trap. Hindsight bias occurs when we look back at past events and believe we predicted the outcome all along, even if we had no clue at the time. This bias gives us a false sense of confidence and prevents us from learning valuable lessons. Picture this scenario: your favorite sports team loses a championship game. Afterward you say, "I knew they would win." But during the game, you were cheering enthusiastically, fully expecting victory. In professional settings, hindsight bias can be particularly damaging. For instance, after a failed business venture, executives might claim they saw the warning signs early on. This mindset discourages honest reflection and accountability, making it harder to improve future performance. To combat hindsight bias, document your thoughts and predictions as events unfold. Keep a journal where you write down your reasoning for major decisions. When outcomes occur, review your notes objectively to identify areas for improvement. As Warren Buffett humorously remarked, "Only when the tide goes out do you discover who's been swimming naked." Be honest with yourself about your blind spots and learn from them. 4.3. Bandwagon effect, following the crowd. The bandwagon effect describes our tendency to adopt beliefs or behaviors simply because others are doing so. This bias stems from our innate desire to fit in and belong. While conformity can sometimes be beneficial, it often leads to poor decision-making. Consider social media trends. Have you ever purchased a product just because everyone else seemed to rave about it? Or joined a popular movement without fully understanding its purpose? These actions may feel harmless, but they reflect a lack of independent thinking. In business, the bandwagon effect can result in groupthink, where teams prioritize harmony over critical analysis. This phenomenon stifles creativity and innovation, ultimately harming organizational success. To resist the bandwagon effect, cultivate a habit of questioning assumptions. Before jumping on a trend or adopting someone else's opinion, ask yourself, is this truly aligned with my values and goals? Have I gathered enough evidence to support this choice? As Mark Twain famously quipped, whenever you find yourself on the side of the majority, it is time to pause and reflect. Stay true to your principles while remaining open to new ideas. 5. How cognitive biases impact real-life scenarios. Now that we've covered several key cognitive biases, let's examine how they manifest in real-world situations. By understanding these examples, you'll be better equipped to recognize and address similar challenges in your own life. 5.1. Sarah's struggle with career choices. Meet Sarah, a talented graphic designer who felt stuck in her career. She dreamed of starting her own design agency but hesitated due to fear of failure. Her hesitation stemmed from multiple cognitive biases. Loss aversion. She worried about losing her stable income and benefits. Confirmation bias. She only sought advice from friends who discouraged entrepreneurship, reinforcing her doubts. Anchoring effect. She fixated on the initial costs of launching her business, overlooking potential long-term rewards. With guidance from a mentor, Sarah began addressing these biases. She created a detailed business plan, consulted diverse experts, and reframed her mindset around risk-taking. Within 2 years, she successfully launched her agency and achieved financial independence. Sarah's journey highlights the importance of self-awareness and proactive problem-solving. By identifying and tackling cognitive biases, you too can break free from limitations and pursue your dreams. 5.2. The role of cognitive biases in relationships. Cognitive biases don't just affect work and finances. They also play a significant role in personal relationships. Miscommunication, misunderstandings, and conflicts often arise from flawed thinking patterns. Take the example of Alex and Mia, a married couple struggling with frequent arguments. During disagreements, Alex would attribute Mia's behavior to her personality. "She's always so stubborn," rather than considering external factors like stress or fatigue. This is known as attribution bias, where we unfairly judge others based on limited information. Similarly, Mia fell victim to the halo effect, assuming Alex's occasional forgetfulness meant he didn't care about their relationship. Both biases fueled resentment and created unnecessary tension. To improve communication, the couple learned to practice empathy and active listening. They challenged their assumptions and focused on understanding each other's perspectives. Over time, their relationship strengthened, proving that clear thinking can transform even the most challenging dynamics. 6. Key takeaways from Chapter 1. Before we conclude this chapter, let's summarize the main lessons. 1. Our brains rely on shortcuts, heuristics, to save time and energy, but these shortcuts often lead to cognitive biases. 2. Common biases include confirmation bias, anchoring effect, illusion of control, loss aversion, hindsight bias, and bandwagon effect. Each one affects our decisions in unique ways. 3. Awareness is power. By recognizing these biases, you can take steps to mitigate their influence and make smarter choices. 4. Real-life examples demonstrate how cognitive biases impact careers, finances, and relationships, and how addressing them leads to positive outcomes. As you move forward, remember the words of psychologist Carol Dweck. Becoming is better than being. Growth requires effort, patience, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. Chapter 2. Identifying and avoiding cognitive biases in the workplace. In this chapter, we'll explore how cognitive biases manifest in professional environments and impact decision-making, teamwork, and leadership. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a manager, or an employee, understanding these biases is crucial for achieving success and fostering a positive workplace culture. As Peter Drucker, one of the most influential management thinkers, once said, "Culture eats strategy for breakfast." While strategies are important, the way people think and interact within an organization often determines its long-term success. By identifying and addressing cognitive biases, you can create a more effective and harmonious work environment. By the end of this chapter, you'll have actionable strategies to recognize and overcome biases in your professional life. Let's dive in. 1. Cognitive biases in leadership and management. Leaders and managers face immense pressure to make decisions that affect not only their own careers but also the lives of their teams. Unfortunately, cognitive biases can cloud judgment and lead to poor outcomes. Below, we'll examine some of the most common biases in leadership and how they play out in real-world scenarios. 1.1. Groupthink, the danger of consensus over creativity. Groupthink occurs when team members prioritize agreement over critical analysis, leading to suboptimal decisions. This bias is particularly prevalent in high-pressure environments where conformity is valued over dissent. Imagine a corporate board meeting where executives discuss launching a new product. Despite initial concerns about market demand, everyone quickly aligns with the CEO's enthusiasm. No one dares to voice objections, fearing conflict or appearing disloyal. As a result, the product fails spectacularly, costing the company millions. To avoid groupthink, leaders must encourage open dialogue and diversity of thought. Here are some practical steps. Assign a devil's advocate during meetings to challenge assumptions. Invite external experts to provide fresh perspectives. Create a culture where constructive criticism is welcomed and rewarded. As Steve Jobs famously emphasized, innovation distinguishes between a leader and a follower. True innovation requires embracing diverse viewpoints and questioning the status quo. 1.2. Hindsight bias in leadership decisions. Hindsight bias, the belief that past events were predictable, can undermine leadership accountability. After a project succeeds or fails, leaders may retroactively claim they foresaw the outcome, even if their original reasoning was flawed. For instance, consider a tech startup whose app gains massive popularity. The CEO might say, "I always knew this feature would resonate with users," despite initially opposing its development. This mindset discourages honest reflection and prevents teams from learning from past experiences. To combat hindsight bias, document key decisions and rationales throughout the process. Use data-driven metrics to evaluate outcomes objectively. By fostering transparency, leaders can build trust and improve future performance. As Ray Dalio, founder of Bridgewater Associates, wisely noted, "He who lives by the crystal ball will eat shattered glass." Accept uncertainty and focus on continuous improvement rather than claiming omniscience. 2. Cognitive biases in team communication and collaboration. Effective communication is the backbone of successful teamwork. However, cognitive biases often distort interactions, leading to misunderstandings and conflicts. Let's explore two common biases that hinder collaboration: attribution bias and halo effect. 2.1. Attribution bias. Judging others unfairly. Attribution bias occurs when we attribute someone's behavior to their personality rather than situational factors. For example, if a colleague misses a deadline, we might label them as lazy or incompetent without considering external pressures like workload or personal issues. This bias creates resentment and damages relationships. It also stifles productivity, as team members become defensive and reluctant to collaborate. To address attribution bias, practice empathy and ask clarifying questions. Instead of jumping to conclusions, seek to understand the full context behind actions. For instance, instead of assuming negligence, inquire, "What challenges did you face while working on this task?" As Maya Angelou poignantly stated, "Do the best you can until you know better. Then, when you know better, do better." Extend grace to others and foster a supportive team dynamic. 2.2. Halo effect, overgeneralizing based on one trait. The halo effect occurs when we form an overall impression of someone based on a single characteristic. For instance, a charismatic speaker may be perceived as competent across all areas, even if their expertise is limited. Conversely, someone who struggles with public speaking might be unfairly dismissed as incapable. In the workplace, the halo effect can lead to biased hiring, promotions, and evaluations. To mitigate its impact, rely on objective criteria and structured processes. For example, use standardized interview questions and performance metrics to assess candidates fairly. As Malcolm Gladwell, author of Blink, observed, "We make snap judgments because we have to, but those judgments aren't always right." Train yourself to look beyond surface impressions and evaluate individuals holistically. 3. Real-life example, the story of Emily and her team's breakthrough. Let me share a true story that illustrates how overcoming cognitive biases can transform workplace dynamics. Meet Emily, a marketing manager tasked with revamping her company's digital strategy. At first, Emily faced resistance from her team. Morale was low, and creative ideas were scarce. Upon reflection, she realized several biases were at play. Groupthink. Team members avoided voicing unconventional ideas to maintain harmony. Confirmation bias. They relied solely on familiar tactics, ignoring emerging trends. Attribution bias. Junior employees hesitated to contribute, fearing criticism from senior staff. Determined to turn things around, Emily implemented the following changes. 1. She introduced brainstorming sessions where every idea, no matter how unconventional, was welcomed and explored. 2. She encouraged team members to research case studies outside their industry, broadening their perspective. 3. She fostered a culture of psychological safety by praising effort rather than just results. Within months, Emily's team developed a groundbreaking campaign that exceeded expectations. Their success proved that tackling biases head-on leads to innovation and growth. 4. Cognitive biases in decision-making under pressure. High-pressure situations amplify the influence of cognitive biases, making it harder to think clearly. Whether you're negotiating a deal, resolving a crisis, or managing tight deadlines, awareness is essential to avoid costly mistakes. 4.1. Sunk cost fallacy. Throwing good money after bad. The sunk cost fallacy refers to our tendency to continue investing resources, time, money, effort, into a failing endeavor simply because we've already invested so much. For example, imagine a software development team working on a project that's consistently delayed and over budget. Despite mounting evidence that the project won't deliver value, they push forward, rationalizing their efforts as too significant to abandon. To overcome the sunk cost fallacy, adopt a forward-looking mindset. Ask yourself, if I were starting today, would I still pursue this course of action? Base decisions on current circumstances rather than past investments. As Warren Buffett advised, should you find yourself in a chronically leaking boat, energy devoted to changing vessels is likely to be more productive than energy devoted to patching leaks. Know when to cut your losses and move on. 5. Strategies to overcome cognitive biases in the workplace. Now that we've explored the most common cognitive biases affecting leadership, teamwork, and decision-making, let's delve into actionable strategies to overcome them. These techniques will empower you to foster a culture of clarity, collaboration, and continuous improvement in your professional environment. 5.1. Encourage data-driven decision-making. One of the most effective ways to combat cognitive biases is to rely on data rather than intuition or assumptions. While gut feelings can sometimes guide us, they are often influenced by biases like confirmation bias or overconfidence. For example, consider a sales team evaluating the success of a recent campaign. Instead of relying on anecdotal feedback or subjective opinions, they should analyze metrics such as conversion rates, customer retention, and revenue growth. By grounding decisions in objective evidence, teams can minimize bias and achieve better outcomes. To implement this strategy, use analytics tools to track key performance indicators (KPIs). Regularly review data during meetings to ensure alignment with facts. Train employees to interpret data accurately and avoid cherry-picking statistics that support pre-existing beliefs. As W. Edwards Deming, pioneer of modern quality management, famously stated, "In God we trust, all others must bring data." Let data be your guiding light in decision-making. 5.2. Foster psychological safety. Psychological safety, the belief that one can speak up without fear of punishment, is essential for overcoming biases like groupthink and attribution bias. When team members feel safe expressing dissenting opinions or admitting mistakes, organizations benefit from diverse perspectives and faster problem-solving. Google's Project Aristotle, a landmark study on team effectiveness, identified psychological safety as the top predictor of high-performing teams. To cultivate this environment, lead by example, share your own vulnerabilities and mistakes openly. Actively solicit input from quieter team members during discussions. Respond to ideas with curiosity rather than criticism, even if you disagree. For instance, imagine a brainstorming session where an intern proposes an unconventional solution. Instead of dismissing it outright, a manager could ask, "That's interesting. Can you elaborate on how this might work?" This approach encourages creativity and reduces fear of judgment. As Amy Edmondson, Harvard professor and author of The Fearless Organization, explains, psychological safety isn't about being nice. It's about giving candid feedback, openly admitting mistakes, and learning from each other. Build a culture where everyone feels valued and heard. 5.3. Implement structured decision-making processes. Unstructured decision-making increases the likelihood of cognitive biases creeping in. By adopting structured frameworks, organizations can ensure consistency and fairness in their processes. One popular framework is the ODA loop: observe, orient, decide, act. Developed by military strategist John Boyd, this model helps individuals and teams make rapid yet informed decisions under pressure. Here's how it works. 1. Observe. Gather relevant information and identify potential biases. 2. Orient. Analyze the data and consider alternative perspectives. 3. Decide. Choose the best course of action based on available evidence. 4. Act. Execute the decision and monitor its impact. Another useful tool is the pre-mortem analysis, which involves imagining a project has failed and working backward to identify possible causes. This technique counters optimism bias by encouraging proactive risk assessment. By embedding these frameworks into workflows, leaders can reduce reliance on flawed thinking patterns and improve overall decision quality. 6. Real-life example: the turnaround at Technova Solutions. Let me share another inspiring story that highlights the power of addressing cognitive biases in the workplace. Meet Mark, the newly appointed CEO of Technova Solutions, a struggling IT services company. When Mark joined, he noticed widespread inefficiencies and low morale. After conducting interviews and analyzing operations, he identified several biases contributing to the problems. Sunk cost fallacy. Teams clung to outdated technologies despite clear signs they were hindering productivity. Halo effect. Senior managers promoted employees based on charisma rather than competence, leading to skill gaps. Groupthink. Departments operated in silos, avoiding cross-functional collaboration to maintain harmony within their groups. Determined to turn the company around, Mark implemented the following changes. 1. He introduced mandatory training sessions on cognitive biases, helping employees recognize and address them. 2. He restructured the promotion process to focus on measurable achievements rather than subjective impressions. 3. He launched interdepartmental task forces to break down silos and foster innovation. Within a year, Technova Solutions saw remarkable improvements. Revenue increased by 25%, employee satisfaction soared, and the company won multiple industry awards. Mark's leadership demonstrated that tackling cognitive biases head-on can drive transformative change. 7. Key takeaways from Chapter 2. Before we conclude this chapter, let's summarize the main lessons. 1. Leadership biases, groupthink, hindsight bias, and sunk cost fallacy can derail decision-making and stifle innovation. Leaders must encourage open dialogue, rely on data, and remain accountable for outcomes. 2. Team communication biases, attribution bias, and halo effect distort interactions, creating misunderstandings and unfair evaluations. Practicing empathy and focusing on objective criteria can mitigate these effects. 3. Decision-making under pressure. High-stakes situations amplify cognitive biases, making it critical to adopt structured frameworks like the ODA loop or pre-mortem analysis. 4. Actionable strategies. Fostering psychological safety, promoting data-driven practices, and implementing structured processes are key to overcoming biases in the workplace. As Peter Senge, author of The Fifth Discipline, wisely noted, "People don't resist change, they resist being changed." Empower your team to embrace clear thinking and take ownership of their growth. Chapter 3. Thinking Clearly in Finance and Investment. In this chapter, we'll explore how cognitive biases impact financial decision-making and investment strategies. Whether you're managing personal finances, building a portfolio, or running a business, understanding these biases is essential for long-term success. As Warren Buffett, one of the greatest investors of all time, once said, "Do not save what is left after spending, but spend what is left after saving." This simple yet profound advice underscores the importance of clear thinking in financial matters. By recognizing and addressing biases, you can make smarter decisions that align with your goals. By the end of this chapter, you'll have practical tools to navigate the complex world of finance with confidence. Let's get started. 1. The role of cognitive biases in financial decision-making. Financial decisions, whether saving, investing, or spending, are inherently emotional. Our brains are wired to prioritize short-term rewards over long-term benefits, often leading to irrational choices. Below, we'll examine some of the most common biases in finance and their real-world implications. 1.1. Loss aversion, the fear of losing money. Loss aversion is perhaps the most pervasive bias in finance. It describes our tendency to prefer avoiding losses over acquiring equivalent gains. For example, studies show that the pain of losing $100 is roughly twice as intense as the pleasure of gaining $100. This bias often leads to overly conservative investment strategies. Imagine an investor who holds on to underperforming stocks simply because selling them would mean realizing a loss, even if reallocating funds could generate better returns. To overcome loss aversion, adopt a disciplined approach to investing. Set clear goals and stick to a predefined strategy. Focus on long-term performance rather than short-term fluctuations. Remind yourself that temporary losses are part of the journey toward wealth creation. As Charlie Munger, vice chairman of Berkshire Hathaway, wisely noted, "The big money is not in the buying or selling, but in the waiting." Patience and perspective are key to overcoming fear-driven decisions. 1.2. Anchoring effect in pricing decisions. The anchoring effect occurs when we rely too heavily on the first piece of information we encounter, the anchor, when making financial decisions. This bias is particularly prevalent in negotiations, purchases, and investments. For instance, consider a homebuyer who sees a house listed at $500,000. If the seller lowers the price to $450,000, the buyer may feel they're getting a bargain, even if the property is still overvalued. Similarly, investors might fixate on a stock's purchase price, refusing to sell until it reaches that level again, regardless of market conditions. To counteract the anchoring effect, gather multiple data points before forming opinions. Research comparable properties, analyze historical stock performance, and consult experts to ensure your decisions are based on objective criteria. As Daniel Kahneman, Nobel laureate in economics, observed, "Anchors do not just influence decisions, they skew them." Be mindful of the anchors you encounter and adjust your thinking accordingly. 2. Behavioral biases in investing. Investing is both an art and a science, requiring a balance of logic and discipline. Unfortunately, cognitive biases often cloud judgment, leading to costly mistakes. Let's explore two critical biases that affect investors: overconfidence bias and confirmation bias. 2.1. Overconfidence bias, believing you know more than you do. Overconfidence bias occurs when individuals overestimate their knowledge, skills, or ability to predict market movements. This bias is especially dangerous in volatile markets, where uncertainty reigns supreme. For example, a novice trader might believe they can time the market by buying low and selling high, a feat even seasoned professionals struggle to achieve consistently. As a result, they may take excessive risks, leading to significant losses. To combat overconfidence bias, adopt a humble mindset. Acknowledge the limits of your knowledge and seek advice from experts. Diversify your portfolio to spread risk across different assets. Use automated tools like dollar cost averaging to remove emotion from the equation. As Benjamin Graham, author of The Intelligent Investor, famously advised, "The essence of investment management is the management of risks, not the management of returns." Prioritize risk mitigation over speculative gains. 2.2. Confirmation bias in stock selection. Confirmation bias leads investors to seek out information that supports their pre-existing beliefs while ignoring evidence to the contrary. This bias can create a false sense of security and prevent critical analysis. Imagine an investor bullish on a particular tech company. They read glowing analyst reports and dismiss negative news as irrelevant. When the stock eventually crashes, they're left wondering what went wrong. To address confirmation bias, actively challenge your assumptions. Follow diverse sources of information, including contrarian viewpoints. Maintain a journal documenting your rationale for each investment decision. Regularly review your portfolio to identify potential blind spots. As Howard Marks, co-founder of Oaktree Capital Management, emphasized, "You can't predict, you can prepare." Stay informed and adaptable to changing circumstances. 3. Real-life example. The rise and fall of John's trading career. Let me share a cautionary tale that illustrates the dangers of unchecked biases in investing. Meet John, a software engineer who decided to try his hand at day trading during the 2020 pandemic. At first, John enjoyed modest success, earning quick profits on volatile stocks. However, his overconfidence soon got the better of him. He ignored warning signs, such as increasing market volatility and declining earnings reports, convinced he could outsmart the system. John also fell victim to confirmation bias, surrounding himself with like-minded traders who reinforced his risky behavior. When the market turned against him, he doubled down on losing positions, driven by loss aversion and sunk cost fallacy. Within months, he had wiped out his savings. Fortunately, John learned from his mistakes. He enrolled in a financial literacy course, studied behavioral economics, and adopted a disciplined, long-term approach to investing. Today, he manages a diversified portfolio and achieves steady growth. John's story serves as a powerful reminder that clear thinking is essential for financial success. 4. Practical strategies for thinking clearly in finance. Now that we've explored the most common biases affecting financial decision-making, let's discuss actionable strategies to overcome them. These techniques will help you build a solid foundation for managing your finances and investments. 4.1. Create a budget and stick to it. One of the simplest yet most effective ways to avoid financial pitfalls is to create a budget. A well-structured budget ensures you live within your means while allocating resources toward long-term goals. To implement this strategy, track your income and expenses using apps or spreadsheets. Categorize spending into essentials, e.g., housing, food, and non-essentials, e.g., entertainment. Set aside a portion of your income for savings and investments before spending on discretionary items. As Dave Ramsey, renowned financial expert, advises, a budget is telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. Take control of your finances through intentional planning. 4.2. Automate your savings and investments. Automation minimizes the impact of cognitive biases by removing emotion from the equation. By setting up automatic transfers to savings accounts or investment portfolios, you ensure consistent progress toward your goals. For example, consider enrolling in a retirement plan that deducts contributions directly from your paycheck. Not only does this simplify the process, but it also leverages the power of compound interest over time. To maximize automation, use robo-advisors to manage investments based on your risk tolerance and objectives. Schedule regular reviews to ensure alignment with changing priorities. Reinvest dividends to accelerate wealth accumulation. As Jack Bogle, founder of Vanguard Group, famously stated, "Time is your friend, impulse is your enemy." Leverage automation to stay disciplined and focused. 5. Advanced strategies for clear thinking in finance. Now that we've covered foundational strategies like budgeting and automation, let's delve into more advanced techniques to enhance financial decision-making. These approaches will help you navigate complex scenarios and build resilience against cognitive biases. 5.1. Embrace dollar cost averaging. Dollar cost averaging, DCA, is a powerful strategy for mitigating the impact of market volatility. Instead of trying to time the market, a nearly impossible task, investors commit to purchasing fixed amounts of an asset at regular intervals, regardless of price fluctuations. For example, imagine investing $500 monthly in an index fund. When prices are high, your contribution buys fewer shares. When prices are low, it buys more shares. Over time, this approach reduces the average cost per share and minimizes the risk of making poor timing decisions. DCA also counters emotional biases like loss aversion and overconfidence by removing the need to predict short-term market movements. As Peter Lynch, legendary investor and author of One Up on Wall Street, once said, "Far more money has been lost by investors preparing for corrections or trying to anticipate them than has been lost in corrections themselves." To implement DCA, set up recurring contributions to your investment accounts. Focus on broad-based index funds or ETFs with low fees. Avoid checking portfolio performance daily to reduce stress and temptation to deviate from the plan. 5.2. Practice scenario analysis. Scenario analysis involves evaluating potential outcomes under different conditions to prepare for uncertainty. This technique helps investors anticipate risks and opportunities, reducing reliance on flawed assumptions. For instance, consider a business owner planning for expansion. They might analyze 3 scenarios. Best case, revenue increases by 20% due to strong demand. Base case, revenue grows by 10%, reflecting moderate success. Worst case, revenue declines by 5% due to economic downturns. By preparing for multiple possibilities, the owner can develop contingency plans and allocate resources wisely. Similarly, individual investors can use scenario analysis to assess how their portfolios might perform during bull and bear markets. To conduct effective scenario analysis, identify key variables that could impact outcomes, e.g., interest rates, inflation. Assign probabilities to each scenario based on historical data and expert forecasts. Adjust strategies accordingly to balance risk and reward. As Nassim Nicholas Taleb, author of The Black Swan, emphasizes, "You don't have to predict the future, just be prepared for it." Build flexibility into your financial plans to adapt to changing circumstances. 6. Real-life example, Sarah's journey to financial independence. Let me share another inspiring story that highlights the power of clear thinking in achieving financial independence. Meet Sarah, a teacher who dreamed of retiring early but struggled with debt and limited savings. At first, Sarah felt overwhelmed by her financial situation. She made impulsive purchases, avoided reviewing her bank statements, and dismissed investing as too complicated. However, after attending a personal finance workshop, she realized her behaviors were driven by cognitive biases like present bias, favoring immediate gratification, and status quo bias, resisting change. Determined to turn things around, Sarah implemented the following strategies. 1. She created a detailed budget, cutting unnecessary expenses and prioritizing debt repayment. 2. She automated monthly contributions to a low-cost index fund, leveraging dollar-cost averaging. 3. She conducted annual reviews to reassess her goals and adjust her strategy as needed. Over time, Sarah transformed her finances. She paid off her debts, built a 6-month emergency fund, and accumulated a diversified portfolio worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. By age 45, she achieved financial independence, and now enjoys a fulfilling life pursuing her passions. Sarah's journey demonstrates that clear thinking and disciplined action can overcome even the most daunting financial challenges. 7. The psychological benefits of clear thinking in finance. Beyond improving financial outcomes, thinking clearly about money offers profound psychological benefits. When you address biases and adopt rational strategies, you reduce stress, increase confidence, and gain greater control over your life. 7.1. Reducing financial anxiety. Financial anxiety often stems from uncertainty and lack of preparation. By creating a clear roadmap, complete with budgets, savings goals, and investment plans, you eliminate ambiguity and build a sense of security. For example, knowing you have an emergency fund covering 6 months' expenses provides peace of mind during unexpected crises, such as job loss or medical emergencies. Similarly, Maintaining a diversified portfolio reduces fear of market downturns, as you're confident in your long-term strategy. 7.2. Building confidence through knowledge. Clear thinking empowers you to make informed decisions rather than relying on guesswork or external advice. As you deepen your understanding of financial concepts and behavioral economics, you become less susceptible to manipulation and more capable of achieving your goals. As Robert Kiyosaki, author of Rich Dad Poor Dad, famously stated, "The size of your success is measured by the strength of your desire, the size of your dream, and how you handle disappointment along the way." Cultivate resilience and determination through education and self-awareness. 8. Key takeaways from Chapter 3. Before we conclude this chapter, let's summarize the main lessons. 1. Cognitive biases in finance. Loss aversion, anchoring effect, overconfidence bias, and confirmation bias significantly impact financial decisions. Recognizing these biases is the first step toward overcoming them. 2. Practical strategies, budgeting, automation, dollar cost averaging, and scenario analysis provide actionable tools for managing finances and investments effectively. 3. Real-life examples. Stories like John's trading career and Sarah's journey to financial independence highlight the transformative power of clear thinking. 4. Psychological benefits. Addressing biases not only improves financial outcomes but also reduces anxiety and builds confidence. Chapter 4. Improving personal relationships through clear thinking. In this chapter, we'll explore how cognitive biases affect personal relationships and how clear thinking can transform the way we connect with others. Whether it's your family, friends, romantic partner, or colleagues, understanding these biases is key to fostering deeper, more meaningful interactions. As Maya Angelou once said, "I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." Relationships thrive on empathy, communication, and mutual respect, all of which are undermined by flawed thinking patterns. By addressing cognitive biases, you can strengthen your bonds and create lasting harmony. By the end of this chapter, you'll have practical tools to improve your relationships through self-awareness and intentional action. Let's begin. 1. Cognitive biases that sabotage relationships. Relationships are inherently emotional, making them fertile ground for cognitive biases. These biases distort our perceptions, fuel misunderstandings, and strain connections. Below, we'll examine some of the most common biases that impact personal relationships and their real-world consequences. 1.1. Attribution bias, judging others harshly. Attribution bias occurs when we attribute someone's behavior to their personality rather than external circumstances. For example, if a friend cancels plans last minute, we might label them as unreliable or selfish without considering factors like work stress or health issues. This bias creates resentment and damages trust. It also stifles open communication, as the accused party may feel unfairly judged and withdraw emotionally. To overcome attribution bias, practice empathy and curiosity. Instead of jumping to conclusions, ask clarifying questions like, "Is everything okay? I noticed you seemed stressed lately." This approach fosters understanding and strengthens the relationship. As Brené Brown, author of Daring Greatly, wisely stated, "Connection is why we're here. It gives purpose and meaning to our lives. Build bridges, not walls, by seeking to understand others' perspectives." 1.2. Halo effect, overgeneralizing based on one trait. The halo effect occurs when we form an overall impression of someone based on a single characteristic. For instance, a charismatic speaker might be perceived as competent across all areas, even if their expertise is limited. Conversely, someone who struggles with public speaking might be unfairly dismissed as incapable. In personal relationships, the halo effect can lead to idealization or demonization. For example, you might idolize a romantic partner early in the relationship, ignoring red flags that suggest incompatibility. Later, when reality sets in, disillusionment can strain the connection. To mitigate the halo effect, focus on objective criteria rather than superficial traits. Evaluate individuals holistically by observing their actions over time. As Malcolm Gladwell, author of Blink, observed. We make snap judgments because we have to, but those judgments aren't always right. Train yourself to look beyond surface impressions. 2. The role of communication in clear thinking. Effective communication is the cornerstone of healthy relationships. However, cognitive biases often distort interactions, leading to misunderstandings and conflicts. Let's explore 2 critical biases that hinder communication: confirmation bias and negativity bias. 2.1. Confirmation bias in arguments. Confirmation bias leads us to seek out information that supports our pre-existing beliefs while dismissing evidence to the contrary. In arguments, this bias manifests as selective listening. We only hear what aligns with our viewpoint and ignore valid counterpoints. For example, imagine a couple debating household responsibilities. One partner might insist they do more chores, disregarding examples provided by the other. This dynamic escalates tension and prevents resolution. To address confirmation bias, adopt an open-minded approach. Listen actively to understand the other person's perspective. Acknowledge valid points, even if they challenge your assumptions. Focus on finding solutions rather than proving who's right. As Stephen Covey, author of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, advised, seek first to understand, then to be understood. Prioritize mutual understanding over winning arguments. 2.2. Negativity bias. Focusing on the bad. Negativity bias refers to our tendency to give greater weight to negative experiences than positive ones. For instance, a single harsh comment during an otherwise pleasant conversation can overshadow hours of kind words. In relationships, this bias erodes trust and breeds resentment. A partner might fixate on past mistakes, using them as ammunition during disagreements. Over time, this pattern damages intimacy and creates emotional distance. To combat negativity bias, practice gratitude and mindfulness. Reflect daily on positive moments shared with loved ones. Express appreciation regularly to reinforce positive feelings. Address grievances constructively without dwelling on past hurts. As John Gottman, renowned relationship expert, emphasized, successful couples focus on the positives and repair after conflicts. Cultivate a culture of appreciation and forgiveness. 3. Real-life example: Mark and Lisa's journey to reconnection. Let me share a powerful story that illustrates how addressing cognitive biases can transform strained relationships. Meet Mark and Lisa, a married couple struggling with frequent arguments and growing emotional distance. At first, both partners blamed each other for the breakdown in communication. Mark accused Lisa of being overly critical, while Lisa felt Mark was indifferent to her needs. Upon reflection, they realized several biases were at play. Attribution bias. They interpreted each other's actions negatively without considering context. Halo effect. Early in their marriage, they had idealized each other, setting unrealistic expectations. Negativity bias. They fixated on minor flaws and overlooked the many strengths in their relationship. Determined to reconnect, Mark and Lisa implemented the following changes. 1. They scheduled weekly check-ins to discuss feelings openly and honestly. 2. They practiced active listening, ensuring each partner felt heard and validated. 3. They created a gratitude jar, where they wrote down positive moments to revisit during tough times. Over time, their relationship transformed. Arguments became less frequent, and mutual respect flourished. Mark and Lisa's journey demonstrates that clear thinking and intentional effort can heal even the deepest rifts. 4. Strategies for building stronger relationships. Now that we've explored the biases that sabotage relationships, let's discuss actionable strategies to foster connection and understanding. These techniques will help you build stronger, healthier relationships in all areas of life. 4.1. Practice active listening. Active listening involves fully focusing on the speaker, asking clarifying questions, and reflecting back what you've heard. This technique counters biases like confirmation bias and attribution bias by ensuring you truly understand the other person's perspective. For example, instead of interrupting or planning your response while someone is speaking, maintain eye contact, nod occasionally, and summarize their points before responding. As Thich Nhat Hanh, Vietnamese Zen master, beautifully stated, "Listening is an art, a bridge between ourselves and others." Strengthen your connections through attentive listening. 4.2. Set healthy boundaries. Boundaries are essential for maintaining balance and preventing resentment in relationships. Without clear limits, one partner may feel overwhelmed or taken advantage of, leading to conflict. For instance, imagine a friend who constantly vents about their problems without reciprocating support. Setting a boundary, such as limiting venting sessions to specific times, can preserve the friendship while protecting your emotional well-being. To establish healthy boundaries, communicate your needs clearly and assertively. Be consistent in enforcing limits to avoid mixed signals. Respect others' boundaries in return to foster mutual trust. As Dr. Henry Cloud, co-author of Boundaries, explains, healthy boundaries free you to live life fully. Protect your energy and nurture your relationships through thoughtful boundaries. 5. Addressing emotional biases in relationships. Emotions play a central role in personal relationships, but they can also amplify cognitive biases, leading to irrational behavior and conflict. Below, we'll explore two common emotional biases, overgeneralization and projection, and discuss strategies to manage them effectively. 5.1. Overgeneralization, making sweeping conclusions. Overgeneralization occurs when we take a single event or trait and apply it broadly to an entire relationship or person. For example, if a partner forgets an important date, you might conclude, "You never care about me." This exaggeration fuels anger and resentment, making resolution harder. To combat overgeneralization, focus on specific incidents rather than sweeping statements. Instead of saying, "You always ignore me," try, "I felt hurt when you didn't acknowledge my comment earlier." This approach encourages constructive dialogue and reduces defensiveness. As Carl Jung, Swiss psychiatrist and psychoanalyst, observed, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Use conflicts as opportunities for growth rather than reasons for blame. 5.2. Projection, blaming others for our own issues. Projection involves attributing our own unresolved emotions or insecurities to someone else. For instance, if you're feeling insecure about your career, you might accuse your partner of being unsupportive, even though their actions are unrelated to your feelings. This bias creates unnecessary tension and diverts attention from the real issue. To address projection, practice self-awareness and introspection. Reflect on your emotions before reacting to others' behavior. Acknowledge your vulnerabilities and communicate them openly. Seek professional help, such as therapy or counseling, if needed. As Sigmund Freud, founder of psychoanalysis, famously noted, "Unexpressed emotions will never die. They are buried alive and will come forth later in uglier ways." Confront your inner struggles to prevent them from sabotaging your relationships. 6. Real-life example, the transformation of Emma and Ryan's marriage. Let me share another inspiring story that highlights the power of addressing cognitive biases in marriage. Meet Emma and Ryan, a couple who had grown distant after years of unresolved conflicts. Initially, both partners felt misunderstood and unappreciated. Emma criticized Ryan for his lack of emotional expression, while Ryan accused Emma of being overly demanding. Upon seeking couples therapy, they discovered several biases undermining their connection. Overgeneralization. They made sweeping conclusions about each other's character based on isolated incidents. Projection. They blamed each other for their own insecurities and frustrations. Negativity bias. They fixated on past grievances, ignoring the many positive aspects of their relationship. With guidance from their therapist, Emma and Ryan implemented the following changes. 1. They practiced I statements to express feelings without blaming, e.g., "I feel lonely when we don't spend time together," instead of, "You never spend time with me." 2. They scheduled weekly gratitude dates, where they shared 3 things they appreciated about each other. 3. They committed to resolving conflicts within 24 hours to prevent resentment from festering. Over time, their efforts paid off. Communication improved, trust was restored, and their marriage became stronger than ever. Emma and Ryan's journey demonstrates that clear thinking and intentional effort can revive even the most strained relationships. 7. The psychological benefits of clear thinking in relationships. Beyond improving interpersonal dynamics, clear thinking offers profound psychological benefits. When you address biases and adopt rational strategies, you reduce stress, increase empathy, and enhance overall well-being. 7.1. Reducing relationship stress. Relationship stress often stems from miscommunication and unresolved conflicts. By practicing clear thinking, through active listening, setting boundaries, and addressing biases, you eliminate ambiguity and build a sense of security. For example, knowing how to handle disagreements constructively prevents arguments from escalating into full-blown fights. Similarly, expressing gratitude regularly fosters positivity and strengthens emotional bonds. 7.2. Building empathy through self-awareness. Clear thinking empowers you to recognize not only your own biases but also those of others. As you deepen your understanding of human behavior, you become more empathetic and compassionate. As Dalai Lama XIV once said, "Compassion is not religious business, it is human business. It is not luxury. It is essential for our peace and mental stability." Cultivate empathy by viewing others through a lens of curiosity rather than judgment. 8. Key takeaways from Chapter 4. Before we conclude this chapter, let's summarize the main lessons. 1. Cognitive biases in relationships: attribution bias, halo effect, confirmation bias, negativity bias, overgeneralization, and projections significantly impact personal connections. Recognizing these biases is the first step toward overcoming them. 2. Practical strategies: active listening, setting healthy boundaries, practicing gratitude, and using I statements provide actionable tools for fostering deeper, more meaningful relationships. 3. Real-life examples: stories like Mark and Lisa's reconnection and Emma and Ryan's marital transformation highlight the transformative power of clear thinking. 4. Psychological benefits: addressing biases not only improves relationships but also reduces stress and builds empathy. As Harriet Lerner, author of The Dance of Connection, wisely stated, "It's not just speaking truth that matters, it's how we speak it that makes all the difference." By prioritizing clarity and compassion, you can create lasting harmony in your relationships. Chapter 5. Developing yourself through logical thinking. In this chapter, we'll explore how logical thinking can transform your personal growth journey. Logical thinking is not just about solving puzzles or excelling in academics. It's a powerful tool for making better decisions, achieving goals, and living a more fulfilling life. As Albert Einstein once said, "The measure of intelligence is the ability to change." Developing logical thinking empowers you to adapt, grow, and overcome challenges with clarity and confidence. By the end of this chapter, you'll have actionable strategies to cultivate critical thinking skills and apply them to every aspect of your life. Are you ready to unlock your full potential? Let's dive in. 1. The foundations of logical thinking. Logical thinking is the process of analyzing information objectively and making reasoned decisions. It involves breaking down complex problems into smaller components, identifying patterns, and drawing conclusions based on evidence rather than emotions. 1.1. Why logical thinking matters. In a world filled with noise and distractions, logical thinking helps you cut through the chaos and focus on what truly matters. Whether you're pursuing career success, financial independence, or personal fulfillment, logical thinking provides a framework for achieving your goals efficiently and effectively. For example, consider someone trying to lose weight. Instead of following fad diets or quick fixes, a logical thinker would research evidence-based nutrition strategies, track progress systematically, and adjust their approach based on results. This methodical mindset leads to sustainable outcomes. To develop logical thinking, start by asking yourself 3 key questions. What is the problem I'm trying to solve? What evidence supports my assumptions? What alternative perspectives should I consider? As Aristotle, the father of logic, famously stated, "It is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it." Cultivate curiosity and skepticism to sharpen your reasoning skills. 1.2. Common barriers to logical thinking. While logical thinking is a valuable skill, several barriers often prevent us from applying it consistently. Below, we'll examine some of the most common obstacles and how to overcome them. Emotional bias. Emotions can cloud judgment, leading to impulsive decisions. For instance, fear of failure might deter you from taking calculated risks, while anger might cause you to lash out during conflicts. Cognitive overload. When overwhelmed by too much information, our brains rely on shortcuts, heuristics, that may lead to errors. Lack of practice. Like any skill, logical thinking requires consistent effort and practice to improve. To address these barriers, take a step back when emotions run high. Pause, breathe, and reflect before acting. Break tasks into manageable chunks to reduce cognitive overload. Engage in activities that challenge your reasoning, such as puzzles, debates, or reading philosophy. As Daniel Kahneman, Nobel laureate in economics, emphasized, thinking is hard work, and our brains are lazy. Train your mind to embrace the discipline of logical thinking. 2. Building critical thinking skills. Critical thinking is a subset of logical thinking that focuses on evaluating arguments, questioning assumptions, and synthesizing information. Below, we'll discuss practical techniques to enhance your critical thinking abilities. 2.1. Asking the right questions. The quality of your questions determines the depth of your insights. Instead of accepting information at face value, dig deeper by asking probing questions. Who benefits from this claim? What evidence supports or refutes this idea? How does this fit into the bigger picture? For example, imagine you're considering a new business opportunity. Instead of jumping in because it sounds exciting, investigate further. Is there a genuine demand for this product or service? What are the potential risks and rewards? How does this align with my long-term goals? As Socrates, the ancient Greek philosopher, demonstrated through his teaching method, the unexamined life is not worth living. Challenge assumptions and seek truth through inquiry. 2.2. Evaluating evidence objectively. Not all evidence is created equal. To think critically, you must distinguish between reliable sources and misinformation. Consider the following criteria when evaluating evidence. Relevance. Does the information directly address the issue at hand? Accuracy. Is the source credible and trustworthy? Bias. Does the author have a vested interest in promoting a particular viewpoint? For instance, if you're researching health supplements, prioritize peer-reviewed studies over anecdotal testimonials. This approach ensures your decisions are grounded in science rather than hype. As Carl Sagan, astrophysicist and author of The Demon-Haunted World, cautioned, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Be vigilant against pseudoscience and baseless assertions. 3. Applying logical thinking to personal growth. Logical thinking isn't just theoretical. It has practical applications that can accelerate your personal development. Below, we'll explore how to use logical thinking to set goals, manage time, and build resilience. 3.1. Setting smart goals. One of the most effective ways to apply logical thinking is through goal setting. Smart goals, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, provide a clear roadmap for success. For example, instead of saying, I want to get fit, define your goal as, I will exercise for 30 minutes, 5 days a week, for the next 3 months. This specificity makes it easier to track progress and stay motivated. To implement SMART goals, write down your objectives and break them into actionable steps. Use tools like calendars or apps to monitor deadlines. Celebrate small wins along the way to maintain momentum. As Zig Ziglar, motivational speaker and author, advised, a goal properly set is halfway reached. Set yourself up for success through thoughtful planning. 3.2. Managing time effectively. Time management is another area where logical thinking shines. By prioritizing tasks based on urgency and importance, you can maximize productivity and minimize stress. The Eisenhower matrix is a powerful tool for organizing your priorities. Urgent and important. Do these tasks immediately. Important but not urgent, schedule these for later. Urgent but not important, delegate if possible. Neither urgent nor important, eliminate or minimize these activities. For instance, if you're preparing for a major presentation, focus on completing the slides and rehearsing your delivery, urgent and important. Meanwhile, schedule networking calls for later in the week, important but not urgent. As Brian Tracy, author of Eat That Frog, famously stated, "Every minute spent in planning saves 10 minutes in execution." Invest time upfront to streamline your workflow. 4. Real-life example, Sarah's journey to becoming a logical thinker. Let me share a story that illustrates the transformative power of logical thinking in personal growth. Meet Sarah, a marketing professional who struggled with procrastination and self-doubt. At first, Sarah felt overwhelmed by her workload and uncertain about her career direction. She often jumped from one task to another without completing anything, leaving her frustrated and demotivated. Upon reflecting, she realized her lack of structure and reliance on emotions were holding her back. Determined to change, Sarah implemented the following strategies. 1. She started journaling daily to clarify her thoughts and identify priorities. 2. She adopted the SMART goal framework to break down her ambitions into manageable steps. 3. She practiced mindfulness meditation to regulate her emotions and improve focus. Over time, Sarah transformed her habits. She completed projects ahead of deadlines, earned promotions, and gained confidence in her abilities. Her journey demonstrates that logical thinking is a learnable skill that anyone can master with dedication. 5. Strategies for lifelong learning. Continuous learning is essential for developing logical thinking and staying adaptable in a rapidly changing world. Below, we'll discuss strategies to foster a growth mindset and expand your knowledge base. 5.1. Reading widely and deeply. Reading exposes you to diverse perspectives and ideas, enhancing your ability to think critically. While fiction stimulates creativity, nonfiction provides practical insights into various fields. For example, books like Thinking, Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman deepen your understanding of decision-making, while Atomic Habits by James Clear offers actionable advice for building productive routines. To maximize the benefits of reading, take notes on key concepts and apply them to real-life situations. Discuss books with others to reinforce your learning. Explore topics outside your comfort zone to broaden your horizons. As George R. Martin, author of A Song of Ice and Fire, observed, "A reader lives 1,000 lives before he dies. The man who never reads lives only one." Immerse yourself in the wisdom of others. 6. Applying logical thinking to problem solving. Problem solving is one of the most practical applications of logical thinking. Whether you're facing personal challenges, professional dilemmas, or societal issues, a structured approach ensures you address problems systematically and effectively. Below, we'll explore a step-by-step framework for solving complex problems using logical reasoning. 6.1. Step 1. Define the problem clearly. The first step in problem solving is to articulate the issue precisely. Vague or ambiguous definitions lead to confusion and ineffective solutions. For example, instead of saying, "I'm unhappy with my job," specify the root cause. "I feel unfulfilled because I lack opportunities for growth and creativity." This clarity helps you focus on actionable areas rather than general dissatisfaction. To define problems effectively, use the 5 whys technique to drill down to the underlying cause. For instance, ask why you're unhappy, then keep asking why until you reach the core issue. Write down your observations to externalize your thoughts and identify patterns. As Peter Drucker, management guru, famously stated, "There is nothing quite so useless as doing with great efficiency something that should not be done at all." Ensure you're solving the right problem before investing time and energy. 6.2. Step 2. Gather relevant information. Once you've defined the problem, gather data and insights to inform your solution. This step requires objectivity and diligence to avoid confirmation bias or misinformation. For instance, if you're considering relocating for a new job, research factors like cost of living, commute times, and local amenities. Consult trusted sources such as government statistics, industry reports, or first-hand accounts from people who live in the area. To ensure accuracy, cross-check multiple sources to verify information. Avoid relying solely on anecdotal evidence or social media posts. Consider both quantitative, e.g., salary comparisons, and qualitative, e.g., quality of life factors. As Sherlock Holmes, the fictional detective created by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, often reminded us, it is a capital mistake to theorize before one has data. Base your decisions on facts, not assumptions. 6.3. Step 3. Generate multiple solutions. After gathering information, brainstorm potential solutions without limiting yourself to conventional ideas. Creative thinking expands your options and increases the likelihood of finding an optimal outcome. For example, imagine you're struggling to balance work and family life. Possible solutions might include negotiating flexible hours with your employer, outsourcing household chores to free up time, setting boundaries around after-hours work communication. To generate diverse solutions, collaborate with others to gain fresh perspectives. Use mind mapping or list-making techniques to organize your ideas. Challenge yourself to think outside the box. What unconventional approaches could work? As Edward de Bono, pioneer of lateral thinking, emphasized, creativity involves breaking out of established patterns in order to look at things in a different way. Explore alternatives beyond the obvious. 6.4. Step 4. Evaluate and choose the best solution. With a list of potential solutions, evaluate each option based on feasibility, impact, and alignment with your goals. Logical thinking ensures you make an informed choice rather than relying on intuition alone. For instance, if you're deciding between two job offers, create a pros and cons list for each position. Assign weights to criteria like salary, career growth, and work-life balance to quantify their importance. To make sound decisions, test your assumptions against evidence. Anticipate potential risks and develop contingency plans. Seek feedback from trusted mentors or peers. As Napoleon Hill, author of Think and Grow Rich, advised, a goal is a dream with a deadline. Align your choices with your long-term vision to maximize results. 7. Real-life example. John's career transition success. Let me share another inspiring story that demonstrates the power of logical thinking in overcoming obstacles. Meet John, a mid-career professional who felt stuck in a monotonous corporate role. At first, John considered quitting his job impulsively, driven by frustration and burnout. However, he realized this decision would leave him financially vulnerable and directionless. Instead, he applied logical thinking to navigate his career transition. 1. Defining the problem. John identified his core dissatisfaction, not enough autonomy or creative freedom. 2. Gathering information. He researched alternative careers in entrepreneurship and freelancing, attended networking events, and spoke with professionals in those fields. 3. Generating solutions. Potential paths included starting a consulting business, pursuing freelance writing, or transitioning to a leadership role within his current company. 4. Evaluating options. After weighing pros and cons, John decided to launch a side hustle offering marketing consulting services while remaining employed full-time. Over time, John's consulting business grew, allowing him to eventually leave his corporate job and pursue his passion full-time. His journey highlights how logical thinking can guide even the most daunting transitions. 8. Cultivating resilience through logical thinking. Resilience, the ability to bounce back from setbacks, is closely tied to logical thinking. When faced with adversity, logical thinkers analyze the situation objectively, identify lessons learned, and adapt their strategies accordingly. 8.1. Reframing failure as feedback. Failure is inevitable, but logical thinkers view it as an opportunity for growth rather than a reflection of inadequacy. By reframing failures as valuable feedback, you can extract insights and improve future performance. For example, if a startup idea fails, instead of labeling yourself a failure, ask, what went wrong and why? What skills or resources were missing? How can I apply these lessons to my next venture? As Thomas Edison, inventor of the light bulb, famously remarked, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Embrace failures as stepping stones to success. 8.2. Managing stress with rational analysis. Stress often stems from uncertainty or perceived lack of control. Logical thinking helps you regain composure by breaking down overwhelming situations into manageable parts. For instance, if you're overwhelmed by mounting bills, create a step-by-step plan. List all debts and prioritize payments based on interest rates. Explore additional income streams or expense reductions. Celebrate small victories, like paying off a credit card, to maintain motivation. As Viktor Frankl, Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, wrote in Man's Search for Meaning, "Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response." Use logic to bridge the gap between challenge and action. 9. Key takeaways from Chapter 5. Before we conclude this chapter, let's summarize the main lessons. 1. Foundations of logical thinking. Logical thinking involves analyzing information objectively, questioning assumptions, and drawing reasoned conclusions. 2. Barriers to overcome. Emotional bias, cognitive overload, and lack of practice can hinder logical thinking, but they can be addressed through awareness and discipline. 3. Practical applications. Smart goals, time management frameworks, and problem-solving techniques provide actionable tools for personal and professional growth. 4. Real-life examples. Stories like Sarah's transformation and John's career transition illustrate the transformative power of logical thinking. 5. Psychological benefits. Logical thinking builds resilience, fosters lifelong learning, and enhances overall well-being. As Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor and philosopher, wisely noted, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Harness the power of logical thinking to take control of your life. Audiobook Conclusion. Your journey to clear thinking starts now. Congratulations! You've reached the end of the art of thinking clearly. Over the past chapters, we've explored the fascinating world of cognitive biases, logical thinking, and their profound impact on every aspect of life, from decision-making and relationships to personal growth and financial success. Let's take a moment to recap the key lessons. 1. Understanding cognitive biases. We uncovered common biases like confirmation bias, anchoring effect, loss aversion, and groupthink that distort our thinking. Recognizing these biases is the first step toward overcoming them. 2. Applying clear thinking in professional settings. In Chapter 2, we learned how biases affect leadership, teamwork, and workplace dynamics, and how structured decision-making processes can drive better outcomes. 3. Mastering financial decisions. Chapter 3 equipped us with strategies to navigate investments, budgeting, and long-term financial planning through clear, rational thinking. 4. Improving personal relationships. In Chapter 4, we discovered how empathy, active listening, and boundary setting can transform strained connections into meaningful bonds. 5. Developing logical thinking for growth. Finally, in Chapter 5, we explored frameworks for problem-solving, goal-setting, and resilience building to unlock our full potential. Each chapter has provided actionable insights designed to empower you to think more clearly, make smarter decisions, and live a more fulfilling life. Knowledge without action is like a ship without a sail. It may float, but it won't go anywhere. Now that you've gained valuable tools and strategies, it's time to put them into practice. Here are 3 steps to help you get started. Step 1. Reflect on your strengths and weaknesses. Take a few moments to assess your current habits and mindset. Ask yourself, which cognitive biases do I struggle with most? Where can I apply logical thinking to improve my decisions? What goals will I set for myself moving forward? Self-awareness is the cornerstone of growth. By understanding your areas for improvement, you'll be better equipped to tackle challenges head-on. Step 2. Start small and build momentum. Change doesn't happen overnight. Begin with small, manageable actions that align with your goals. For example, Dedicate 10 minutes daily to journaling or mindfulness meditation to sharpen your focus. Practice active listening during conversations to deepen your relationships. Automate savings contributions to build financial discipline over time. As James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, reminds us, you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Focus on building consistent habits rather than seeking overnight success. Step 3. Share your journey with others. Personal growth becomes even more rewarding when shared with others. Discuss what you've learned with friends, family, or colleagues. Encourage them to join you on this journey toward clearer thinking. Together, you can hold each other accountable and celebrate progress along the way. As Helen Keller once said, alone we can do so little, together we can do so much. Collaboration amplifies impact. Thinking clearly is not just a skill, it's a mindset. It requires courage to confront uncomfortable truths, humility to acknowledge mistakes, and persistence to keep improving. Remember, every decision you make shapes the trajectory of your life. By mastering the art of clear thinking, you take control of your destiny and create opportunities for lasting success. As you embark on this journey, keep these words from Mahatma Gandhi close to your heart. The future depends on what you do today. Every step you take toward clearer thinking brings you closer to the life you desire. Thank you for joining me on this transformative journey through the art of thinking clearly. Your commitment to learning and self-improvement inspires me to continue creating content that empowers and uplifts. If you found value in this audiobook, I'd love to hear from you. Please leave a comment sharing your thoughts or any questions you might have. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Wisdom Audiobooks for more insightful content tailored to your growth. Lastly, remember, your wisdom journey starts here. Embrace the power of clear thinking, and watch as it transforms every area of your life. Until next time, stay curious, stay resilient, and keep striving for excellence.